All right, today we are diving into a spiritual framework that's going to challenge a lot of what you might think about self-improvement. The big idea here is that the real goal isn't to become some better, more powerful version of yourself, but to simply see reality for what it truly is.
Okay, let's just start with this quote because, wow, it really packs a punch. Egoic compensation. What does that even mean? Well, it means that when we feel small or inadequate, our ego scrambles to find a sense of power to make up for it. This whole idea argues that the massive empowerment industry is basically built on selling us a temporary fix for a much, much deeper problem.
So that brings us to our first section, the myth of empowerment. The whole goal here is to reframe that popular idea of empowerment. Instead of seeing it as a strength, what if we saw it as a symptom, a sign that we're actually out of alignment with the world? What if that desire to control everything really just comes from losing our proper place within it?
And this slide just lays it out so clearly. On the left, you've got this empowerment spirituality. It's all about seeking dominance, puffing up the self, and trying to bend reality to your will. But look at the path on the right. Holistic spirituality isn't about power, it's about fidelity. It's about being true to reality, finding our actual place in the world, and getting back in sync with it.
Okay, so this leads us right to the heart of the matter, the clash between performance and perception. You have to ask yourself, am I living my life trying to perform for some imaginary audience, or am I just experiencing reality as it comes? Because right there, in that choice, is where all the distortion begins. And here we see those two different ways of being. The performance mind, well, it's basically a prisoner of pride and shame. It's constantly filtering everything to protect its fragile identity, and every action it takes is just trying to make up for some insecurity. But the perception mind, it's free. It meets reality head-on, no filters, and its actions just flow naturally from what is.
Now, this is a real game changer. This framework takes a word we all think we know, sin, and flips it on its head. It's not about being a bad person or doing bad things. Nope, it's a structural problem. It's the act of seeing reality through the distorted lens of protecting your own identity. The bad actions? They're just the symptoms of seeing things wrong in the first place.
So, here's the crucial point. True holiness isn't about acting perfectly. It's not a performance of virtue for everyone to see. It's the state of seeing the world with a whole, undivided mind. A mind that doesn't need to break reality into pieces just to protect its own image.
Okay, so you might be thinking, if the problem is my distorted perception, how in the world do I fix it? Well, what are the tools for getting that clarity back? This framework suggests they're probably not what you'd expect.
So how do we get there? It comes down to three core tools: structure, ritual, and silence. But, and this is key, these aren't about feeling good or getting some spiritual buzz. They are diagnostic tools. Their whole job is to interrupt our performance and show us what our minds are really doing behind the scenes.
This distinction is so important. Think about it. Beliefs are portable. You can carry them around like an accessory, and they might never actually change you. But structure, that's different. You can't just wear a structure. You have to enter it, submit to it. And when you do, it starts to rewire your perception from the inside out.
And silence, too, is a diagnostic tool. We tend to think of it as this peaceful, relaxing thing. But in this framework, nope, it's a test. When you stop talking, what happens? Does your mind go quiet? Or does it immediately start performing for an imaginary audience in your head? Silence reveals whether your mind is actually free.
So what happens when you actually use these tools? When you strip away the performance and get your perception back in line with reality? Well, the result is a return to a state of innocence.
But hold on, we're not talking about the fragile innocence of a child, the kind that shatters the first time it comes under real pressure. This is something totally different. This is a mature innocence, one that's been forged through structure. It's a state of being that's coherent, that holds up under pressure, because it's no longer busy protecting itself.
And that's really the whole ballgame right there. To be able to see the world without that constant filter of self-defense. Can you imagine? Just experiencing reality directly, without the exhausting need to protect your ego every second of the day. And all of this leads us to the final, and maybe the most radical idea in this whole framework. It's about what happens when this whole process is complete. It's about the end of seeking.
Now this is a wild idea. We're always taught that seeking is this noble, spiritual thing to do. But what if that's completely backward? What if the constant act of seeking is actually a symptom that our perception is out of whack? What if our endless search for something better is the very thing keeping us from what's right here?
So, enlightenment isn't some grand prize you get at the end of the race. It's not about gaining some new power or secret knowledge. It's about loss. It's about the removal of all the illusions you were clinging to that made you feel like you had to seek in the first place. And what exactly are we losing? Well, it's these three core illusions the ego just loves. First, the idea of false agency, that I am the one making everything happen. Second, imagined control, this belief that you can negotiate with reality if you just try hard enough. And third, narrative self-importance, the idea that your personal story is the center of the universe.
So what does it feel like in the end? Not like a victory, not like an achievement. It just feels like stopping. The race is over. The constant searching is finally done. You can just be.
And that leaves us with this one profound question to really think about. If the seeking itself is the obstacle, then what does it actually mean to simply stop? What does a life like that even look like? That's definitely something to chew on.